Hi class, welcome back. We're going to talk about Chapter 13 now, which is all about the different benefit options that you can have as an employee. Now, if you remember from Chapter 12, we kind of talked about the overall benefits idea and the strategy and the kind of the cost structures that goes along with it. Well, now we're going to talk about all the different options that you can have as a company, all the different benefits they can offer you. Again, as I mentioned last time, there's three types of required benefits under federal law: workers' compensation, Social Security, and unemployment. Okay, these are the only three things that are legally required. So a company is not required to give you health insurance. They're not required to give you time off or sick time or a retirement. Now, companies who don't do those things probably won't be in business very long because nobody will want to stay and work for them. But legally, these are the only three that they're required to have. As you can also see on this slide, FMLA, COBRA, and HIPAA, and we'll talk about what each one of those are in a minute, are technically also legally required, but they kind of make little quirks that don't absolutely make them relevant to every single employee. There's certain little things that have to occur for them to be triggered. So again, it's important to keep those three in mind as well, but workers' comp, Social Security, and unemployment are the big ones. So let's talk about them. First off, let's talk about workers' comp. Workers' comp is basically a payment that you can get if you are injured at work through no fault of your own. Obviously, if you go and deliberately smash your finger with a hammer on purpose to try to get workers' comp, that's not going to fly because you did it, through no fault of your own. But if you get hurt, you slip and fall, maybe you burn yourself, maybe you spill acid on your foot, anything that's not your fault and it relates to your job, you are eligible under state law to get workers' comp. Every state has their own law when it comes to workers' comp. Some states, will give you, half of whatever you are making for a short amount of time. Others may give you 2/3 of your salary for however long you have to be off. Workers' comp can help cover you through things, if you have to have a surgery as a result of an injury at work, or if you have to have, permanent doctor's visits because of something that happened at work. Workers' comp is there to cover you. So again, it is required by federal law, but there is no federal workers' compensation. All 50 states and Washington, D.C. each have their own laws when it comes to workers' comp. So how you qualify, how much you get, that's all determined by the individual state that you live in. And again, you usually have to go through a medical evaluation so that the company will know how much to pay. And it's kind of basically a no-fault insurance is the best way to think about it. Okay. The second legal required thing is Social Security. Again, this is something that you get whenever you retire. Nearly every American worker is covered. Most of you have probably heard about Social Security before. It falls into 4 different categories, as you can see right there, about how you can get money under Social Security. And usually it's when you hit a certain age that you qualify. But even if you don't meet a certain age, you can technically still get Social Security depending on what category you fall into. So, for example, if you die at age 45, there are some qualifications under Social Security where your benefits could get certain amounts of money based on your death. So again, legally required for all employees is Social Security. And finally is unemployment insurance. Unemployment insurance is basically something that you get if you lose your job through no fault of your own. So for example, let's say you work at a manufacturing plant and the plant completely closes, then through no fault of your own, you're able to get unemployment insurance to cover your costs because you lost your job through no fault of your own. Now, word of advice, if you go into your boss's office and start cussing him or her out and do all kinds of bad stuff, then you probably won't qualify because your own personal actions, you caused the termination, so you wouldn't be eligible. But if let's say, for example, that you're doing your job to the best of your ability, and your employer says, you know what, you're just not doing a good job, I'm going to go ahead and fire you because I need somebody else in here, you would be eligible because again, technically you didn't lose the job through your own fault. You were trying to do your job. Again, unemployment insurance is like workers' comp. It's state specific. It's federally required, but all 50 states and Washington, D.C. have their own laws when it comes to unemployment. They can set how long you can get it, how much money you get. Each state's different. Some states say you can get, half of your money for 10 weeks. Some of them say you can get it for up to 26 weeks. And it's not a lot of money. It's a couple $100s a week. It's designed to be able to give you some grocery money, maybe pay a bill or two. It's designed to keep you on your feet until you find another job. And almost every state requires, as a part of unemployment, that you actively be seeking another job. So you can't just sit at home and watch TV all day and collect unemployment. You have to return in monthly reports to the state to show that you're actually trying to find a job. You have to list all the places you've applied for, whether you've had any interviews, and that will determine week by week if you continue to get unemployment. Because if you stop applying for jobs and just sit at home, then the state will no longer pay your unemployment insurance. Historically, the maximum numbers for unemployment has been about 26 weeks or about 6 months, give or take. Some have extended that, it kind of depends. And again, weekly benefits are based on the earnings over the past year up to a state maximum. So however much you earned as a percentage up to whatever that state maximum is how much you will get. So it'll vary based on what type of job that you have. And again, it's not designed to be something, I got unemployment, I can sit at home and relax all day. You're supposed to continue to try to find employment so that you can get back on your feet. So those were the three kind of absolutely federally minimum benefits. Let's talk about a couple that are still technically required, but they have certain things that you have to meet. FMLA is one of them, the Family Medical Leave Act. If you qualify, you're guaranteed up to 12 weeks of leave to take care of either yourself or a sick family member of unpaid leave. Now, one thing to remember about FMLA is it's unpaid. If you have sick or vacation time and your company allows you to use that, you can do so, but while you're out on FMLA, a company is not legally required to pay you. They just have to protect your job and allow you to come back to that job after your leave is over. Obviously, if you break your arm and you're going to be out for a couple weeks, that can be covered under family medical leave. If your child has to have surgery, then you can be off to take care of your child during that surgery. Obviously, one of the most common things people use FMLA for is pregnancy and early motherhood. So if you have a baby, you're guaranteed time off through FMLA to take care of the baby and nurture the baby until you're ready to come back to work. And again, you can use up to 12 weeks per year in that aspect. But there are certain requirements. It applies only if a company has 50 or more employees. If a company does not have 50 or more employees, then the company is not legally required to offer FMLA. Additionally, with FMLA, you have to be employed for at least 1 year. So you can't come in on day one and then you start taking 12 weeks of unpaid leave. You generally have to be employed for at least 1 year before you're eligible for FMLA. But once you meet these requirements, it is a legally protected benefit. A lot of states are moving towards paid family leave. Some states have it, some don't. But from a federal standpoint, we're all required to give you is 12 weeks of unpaid leave. The Consolidated Omnibus Budget Reconciliation Act, commonly called COBRA. You're not required to memorize what COBRA stands for. All you really need to know about in COBRA is that basically, as long as you have 20 or more employees, if you leave the company or you get fired, you're allowed to continue on the health insurance plan for that company for a certain amount of time. Now, of course, you do have to pay for it and you have to maintain, and it's a pretty large number that you have to pay, but for a certain amount of time, you're guaranteed to continue your health insurance if you're willing to pay for it. That's essentially what you need to know about COBRA. HIPAA, the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. Long way, it's pretty much known as HIPAA. It's designed to basically prevent discrimination in health insurance. So basically, it lessens, pre-existing conditions as a denial to be put on health insurance. It also protects your confidential medical information. So I can't call my best friend's doctor and say, hey, can you give me his complete medical information? I just want to know how he's doing. HIPAA protects your right to privacy with your own personal health information. And there are a few other little things that it does add. There's more compliance things with HIPAA. I don't really care if you know that. I just want to make sure that you understand that it's designed to basically prevent discrimination in health insurance. So, an additional thing I want you to know is, again, I know these are long names, ERISA, the Employer Retirement Income Security Act. ERISA basically is if your company offers a 401k or a 403b or some type of retirement plan, ERISA is basically the law that governs how that works, the benefits and the rules of those retirement plans. If your company doesn't offer a retirement plan, then ERISA doesn't apply to you or the company. But if your company does offer a retirement plan, it must be governed under the rules set forth under ERISA. So that's really all you need to know about that. Life insurance. Obviously, you know, most companies, especially a lot of bigger companies, will offer you life insurance. So it's typically 1 to 2 times your annual salary. So if it's 2 times your annual salary and you make $50,000, then the company will provide your beneficiaries $100,000 if you die while you're at work or if being an employee of the company. And generally, it's designed to be able to cover funeral costs and provide some basic needs, you know, after your death. It's not designed to be, you know, this 10, 15, $20 million, you know, life insurance policy. It's designed basically to kind of help out. Again, life insurance, there are a lot of rules that govern it. It's usually forfeited upon quitting. So if you leave the company, usually you will lose your life insurance with that company specifically. One kind of quick final note, future of the ACA or the Affordable Care Act, you know, it's sometimes it's colloquially known as Obamacare. It is the national health care rule that President Obama put into place when he was president. It is still the law of the land, you know, so it is still a requirement that everybody have some form of health insurance as best that they can. And again, I'm not going to go into all the details of the Affordable Care Act or all the politics behind it. What you need to know about the Affordable Care Act is that it is still the law of the land, and it's still a mandated thing that employees or individuals are required to have health insurance and your dependents as well. So just kind of keep an eye on it because, again, with which each presidency, the Affordable Care Act is kind of under different levels of scrutiny, different levels of, you know, some support it, some don't support it. It's only kind of based on your own personal politics. The last couple slides talk about dental insurance, vision insurance, and other kinds of miscellaneous insurances. Make sure you read through those because, again, I think it's important for you to know all those little details, even though they're not technically major parts of benefits plans. Thanks, everyone. Hope you enjoyed this chapter.